On the 30th of April, 1943, a fisherman off the coast of Huelva, Spain, spotted a corpse drifting in Atlantic waters. It was an officer wearing the battle uniform of the British Royal Marines. Strapped to his trench coat was a black leather briefcase containing top-secret military communications. When Spanish authorities examined the body alongside German intelligence agents, they reached a clear conclusion. The officer had drowned following a plane crash over the sea. But buried deep within confidential British military records lay a far stranger truth. The lungs of the dead man contained no ocean water. He had actually died days earlier in London from consuming rat poison. To understand how a poisoned vagrant ended up carrying Allied war plans into the hands of the Nazi High Command, we must return to the spring of 1943. Allied forces had cleared North Africa and were preparing for their next major move into occupied Europe. Every general in Berlin and London knew the obvious geographic truth. The island of Sicily was the natural stepping stone for an invasion of southern Europe. Prime Minister Winston Churchill famously observed that everyone except a fool would know it was Sicily. Because the target was so obvious, Adolf Hitler had heavily fortified the island, creating a defensive fortress that promised immense casualties for any invading Allied force. The Allied High Command faced an agonizing strategic dilemma. A direct assault against a heavily prepared island defense could cost tens of thousands of young soldiers their lives. If the invasion failed on the beaches of Sicily, the momentum of the entire war effort across Western Europe would be stalled for over a year. The British war planners realized that they could not change the geographic location of Sicily. Therefore, they had to accomplish a far more complex psychological task. They had to convince Adolf Hitler that the obvious target was merely a secondary feint, and that the real invasion would strike somewhere else entirely. The origin of the plan lay in an intelligence memorandum written years earlier by Rear Admiral John Godfrey and his personal assistant, a young naval officer named Ian Fleming. Fleming, who would later author the James Bond novels, listed 54 creative methods for deceiving enemy intelligence. Item 28 on his list proposed dropping a dead corpse dressed as an airman, carrying fake dispatches near enemy shores. In early 1943, two British intelligence officers stationed at Room 13 in the Admiralty resurrected this obscure idea. Flight Lieutenant Charles Cholmondeley and Naval Intelligence Officer Ewen Montagu gave the bizarre deception scheme an official military code name. They called it Operation Mincemeat. To execute the operation, Montagu and Cholmondeley required a very specific anatomical subject. They needed a corpse that appeared to have died at sea from hypothermia and drowning, but without any physical trauma or bullet wounds. Sir Bentley Purchase, the senior coroner of St. Pancras in London, quietly helped them locate a body. On the 26th of January 1943, 34-year-old Glyndwr Michael was admitted to St. Pancras Hospital. He was an unemployed homeless man from Wales who had ingested rat poison containing yellow phosphorus in an abandoned warehouse. Michael died 2 days later in extreme poverty, completely alone, with no surviving relatives to claim his remains. The legal consent for using the body was never secured, but the team proceeded swiftly. Coroner Purchase placed Glyndwr Michael's body into a refrigerated storage unit at -4 degrees Celsius. Now, British intelligence had to transform an impoverished, malnourished Welsh vagrant into a respected, high-ranking officer in the British military. Montagu and Cholmondeley created an intricate personal biography for their fictional soldier. They gave him a name, a rank, and an assignment. He became Acting Major William Martin of the Royal Marines, an expert in landing craft operations. For 3 months, they built a complete paper trail that would withstand microscopic examination by German counterintelligence officers. To make Major Martin feel undeniable to any investigator, they packed his pockets with everyday items known as pocket litter. They inserted a real photograph of a fictional fiancée named Pam, written by an MI5 clerk named Jean Leslie. They added passionate love letters, a receipt for an engagement ring from Bond Street, and a bill for naval shirts. To explain why his military identity card was recently issued, they noted that he had lost his previous pass. They added stubbed theater tickets, a silver pencil, and overdue notices from his bank. Every single item in his pockets told the consistent story of a careless, living officer. The true payload of Operation Mincemeat was contained inside a leather briefcase attached to Major Martin's waist. British planners knew that an officer would never carry top-secret military plans in his hand where they could float away. Inside the briefcase were personal letters between high-ranking commanders. One key letter from Lieutenant General Archibald Nye to General Harold Alexander casually discussed the impending Allied offensive in the Mediterranean. The letter explicitly stated that the Allies intended to launch a massive two-pronged attack on Greece and Sardinia under the code name Operation Husky. It specifically added that a minor secondary landing on Sicily would be executed merely to distract German troops. On the 19th of April, 1943, the frozen body of Glyndwr Michael was packed into a specialized steel container filled with dry ice. The canister was loaded aboard the submarine HMS Seraph under the command of Lieutenant Bill Jewell. The crew was informed that the cylinder contained secret meteorological equipment. On the morning of the 30th of April, HMS Seraph surfaced 1 mile off the southern coast of Huelva, Spain. The location was chosen specifically because a sympathetic German intelligence agent named Adolf Klaus operated in the town. Lieutenant Jewell read the 39th Psalm, strapped an inflatable life jacket onto Major Martin, and pushed the corpse gently into the ocean waves. Tides carried the corpse to the shore near Huelva, where local fishermen discovered the body. Spanish naval officers retrieved the briefcase and placed it in a secure safe, while a local doctor performed a superficial autopsy. British consular officials in Spain, playing their role to perfection, began desperately demanding the immediate return of the briefcase before its contents could be opened. This desperate British reaction convinced local Spanish military officers that the documents were genuine. Despite official neutrality, pro-Nazi Spanish authorities secretly allowed German Abwehr agents to examine the letters. The Germans carefully dried the damp pages, photographed every single document, and meticulously resealed the envelopes with microscopic precision. The photographic copies of the letters were immediately flown directly to German intelligence headquarters in Berlin. German analysts verified the details using Major Martin's personal items. On the 14th of May, 1943, decrypted Enigma signals intercepted at Bletchley Park revealed that Adolf Hitler had completely swallowed the bait. Hitler became convinced that Greece and Sardinia were the true targets. He issued direct orders to divert massive military forces away from Italy. He ordered 2 elite panzer divisions, along with dozens of artillery units and naval torpedo boats, to transfer from the Eastern Front directly to Greece. The German High Command left only minimal forces to defend the island of Sicily. When Bletchley Park confirmed that the German army was moving its armored divisions to Greece, Ewen Montagu sent a classified cable directly to Winston Churchill, who was attending a conference in Washington. The message contained a famous 5-word phrase: "Mincemeat swallowed, rod, line, and sinker." On the 10th of July, 1943, Allied forces launched Operation Husky, landing over 160,000 troops on the beaches of Sicily. Expecting heavy resistance, the invading forces caught the remaining German defenders completely unprepared. The island was secured far faster than anyone predicted, saving estimated tens of thousands of Allied lives during the landing phase. The strategic consequences of Operation Mincemeat reached far beyond the shores of the Mediterranean. To reinforce Greece, Hitler had cancelled a critical tank offensive at Kursk on the Eastern Front, transferring key armored assets to southern Europe. Furthermore, the rapid loss of Sicily triggered a political collapse in Rome, leading directly to the arrest of Benito Mussolini and the surrender of the Italian government. Yet, while Allied generals celebrated one of the most successful military deceptions in human history, the man who made it possible was buried under a plain stone in a Spanish cemetery. He was laid to rest with full military honors under his fake identity, Major William Martin. For over 50 years, the British government kept the true identity of Major William Martin strictly classified. Ewen Montagu published a best-selling memoir in 1953 titled The Man Who Never Was, but he was legally forbidden from revealing the real name of the dead vagrant. It was not until 1996 that amateur historian Roger Morgan uncovered declassified files in the Public Record Office at Kew. The documents finally revealed that the man who saved the invasion of Sicily was Glyndwr Michael. In January 1997, the British War Graves Commission officially added a new inscription to the headstone in Huelva, recognizing his real name alongside his military alias. The core facts of Operation Mincemeat remain firmly documented in Admiralty archives, trial testimonies, and declassified intelligence files from Bletchley Park. A man who died penniless in a cold London warehouse became an involuntary hero who reshaped the map of wartime Europe. When we look at the official history of the Second World War, we often focus on commanders and massive armies. Yet, thousands of soldiers walked off the beaches of Sicily alive because of a homeless man whose name was hidden for half a century. If you listen to the very end, let me know in the comments that you are here, remembering the silent history.